Hello everybody, 'tis I, the Rumple-One. Words. Today's word is right. I'm not talking about right as opposed to left, and I'm not talking about right as opposed to wrong. I'm talking about right as what most people think we have in the Bill of Rights. Funny thing is, when I look up right in my handy dandy Merriam-Webster dictionary, it doesn't really define right in that way. It says morally or socially correct or acceptable, agreeing with the facts or truth, accurate or correct, speaking, acting, or judging in a way that agrees with the facts or truth. And that really doesn't get down to it. You see, right, as what we're talking about, has to do with entitled or maybe owed. But you see, that definition really can't be found because I think it's bogus. You talk about the right to affordable health care, that everybody has that right. You see, the problem with that line of thinking is when you take a step back, you see that somebody is making that decision. So the question is, who has the right to make a decision about the rights of somebody else? Ponder that for a while. See, that's the heart of the problem right there. Once again, it gets back to the old one person or group trying to impose their will on another person or group. I mean, it's absurd when you think about it. I mean, I've got an apple tree. If you want an apple, do you have a right to that apple? It's on my land. Do you have a right to that apple? I mean, some people would say, well, yeah. Well, why? Because they want an apple. They're hungry. But did they water the tree? Did they plant the tree? Did they fertilize the tree? Did they nurture it? Did they keep the predators away from it? No, they just want it because it's there and they want it. It's kind of like health care. I mean, it's just some of these things are so absurd when you really look at it. I mean, it just boggles the mind. It just really does. And that these people can go on national TV, or international for that matter, and say these things. I read an article about how in the United Kingdom, England, there's a big problem. We got a lot of people on the dole, in other words, getting government handouts. And that, you know, the country's just kind of falling apart. They got people who are actually, they get so much money off the dole that they can actually take vacations to exotic places. And remember, they have universal health care. But it's been pointed out before that, you know, the whole idea about this universal health care and the right to health care is just another way of the government seizing more control over the people. I mean, it's right there in the rules for radicals. But the whole idea when I talk about these words are to really challenge the concepts and definitions. I want you to think about it. I want you to ponder it. I want you to stew over it. And not just accept it when you hear it. I want you to go, hold on a minute. That just doesn't, you know, just doesn't sound right to me. It just doesn't sound correct. It doesn't sound logical or reasonable. Because, see, that's what it gets down to. Is that if if you apply logic and reason to these things, they just don't they just don't stand up. They don't hold water. But somehow, we've elected people who don't apply logic and reason. What they do is they apply emotion. They apply things that will get them into power and keep them in power. You see, there's a lot of ways to fix the problem, but nobody wants to do it because then they won't get the benefits. You see, whenever there's a problem, there's a solution, but if things stay the same, somebody's getting a benefit. It's just that simple. I mean, this whole thing, I don't know if you've dealt with this healthcare, but it's just so inefficient. But the point is the word right. Not right as opposed to left, or right as opposed to wrong, but right as your inalienable rights. If you believe that a bunch of guys sitting around a table can draft a document and say these are your rights, and that's the way it is, that's what God intended, I think you better quit smoking something, because you're just way off base. That's just not the way it is. As I've said in other videos, you know, if you're born, you're going to breathe. Do you have a right to breathe? Well, you can't not breathe. If you don't, you die. You know, do you have a right to pee and poo? Well, if you put something in one end, it's got to come out the other. That's just the way we're made. Do you have a right to do it? You just do it. I mean, you know, these things, see, the problem is that when you talk about right, you're talking about a concept as opposed to a reality. You know, do you have a right to do whatever it takes to not be eaten by some other predator, whether four-legged, two-legged, or something that slithers along the ground or flies in the air? I mean, it's not up to anybody else to say whether or not you have a right. You just do it. You know? Do I have a right to say that this plot of land is mine because I paid money to somebody else who said it was theirs because they had paid money to somebody else, on and on until where somebody came here and staked it out and said, put a flag down and said, this is my land? It's all conceptual. I mean, do I own it? Well, talk to the ants and the deer and the quail that inhabit this land. They don't seem to have any respect for it. But you see, that's the reality. So right, my fellow viewers, is a concept. And it's one that's been taken to the absurd extreme. I think you know it. And I'd love to hear your opinion on this. And I thank you for giving me your opinion on some of the other videos that I've put out. I do appreciate it, especially the words of encouragement. And for the young listeners and viewers, I didn't realize I was reaching the high school kids. But, you know, take some of these things I say. Don't take them for granted. Take it with a grain of salt. Get on Google and research it for yourself. See, when I was your age, I had to go to the World Book Encyclopedia or the library. I didn't have, you know, a cell phone where I could look up just about anything and get, you know, 1 million hits in under 2 seconds or so. So you guys, you know, this land's going to be your land in a few years. So I encourage you to figure this stuff out now, and hopefully you can take some of the things that I bring to the table and build upon them. So once again, right. That's the word. Not right as opposed to left, not right as opposed to wrong, but right in the meaning of you're entitled to or deserve. You don't.